The Egg Tree by Katherine Milhous. The Egg Tree, Story and Pictures by Katherine Milhous. It was early on Easter morning, so early that the children were still asleep in the small red house and the animals were quiet in the big red barn, all except the rooster. Suddenly the rooster threw out his chest as if he were blowing a horn. "Cock-a-doodle-doo! This will never do," he crowed. Just then the sun came up over the red hills. The rooster crowed again, and all the animals woke up. The third time he crowed, he woke up Katie, and Katie woke up Carl. "Carl, get up! Maybe we can see the Easter rabbit bring the eggs." Katie and Carl tiptoed across the floor to the window and they flung open the shutters. How good the outdoors smelled, and how lovely the garden looked. "The rabbit hasn't come yet," said Katie. "See, here are all the flower petals that I put for him on the lawn. He hasn't eaten a one." Carl laughed. "I don't believe that the Easter rabbit eats flower petals. If you want the rabbit to come, you have to whistle for him, like this." "Shh," said Katie. "Grandmom says we mustn't wake up our cousins till it's time for the egg hunt." "But there won't be any egg hunt if the rabbit doesn't bring the eggs," said Carl. He whistled again, a bit louder. He hoped to get his cousins in the next bedroom and hoped they would hear him and get up. Then they, too, could see the rabbit bring the eggs. Carl and Katie leaned out of the window. The morning was full of sounds. Birds twittered, cows mooed, horses neighed, pigs grunted, geese honked, and hens cackled. Church bells rang out from the valley in the village over the hill. But still, the Easter rabbit did not come. Once there was only a rustle under a big lilac bush, but it was only the cat. "Whistle just once more, please, Carl," Katie said. This time Carl whistled with all his might. Suddenly Katie put her hand over his mouth. "Shh! Carl, there's the rabbit in the garden, and he's nibbling on the flower petals." The children held their breaths. How the rabbit bounced about the flower beds and burrowed in the bushes. At last he bounded out of sight behind the barn. "Come on, Katie," said Carl. "Let's wake everybody up." He ran down the hall calling, "Susie, Lukey, Johnny, Apollonia. The Easter rabbit has come." In a few minutes all the children were dressed and out in the barnyard. The egg hunt had begun. Grandmom smiled from the kitchen door. Which child would win the prize for finding the most eggs, she wondered. It would not be Katie or Carl, she was sure, for this was their first egg hunt. The other grandchildren had come every Easter to the little red house. At first, Katie and Carl thought the hunting for colored eggs was the greatest fun in the world, but somehow their cousins found all the pretty eggs. Katie and Carl just did not know where to look. Who would think that the rabbit had left eggs in the feed bin, in the watering trough, and even up in the hayloft? In the garden it was even harder. The colored eggs looked so much like colored flowers. But at last, Carl found a nest of 3 eggs in a magnolia tree. Now Katie was the only one who had not found a single egg. In the kitchen, the egg hunt began all over again. Katie was sure she would find eggs in the kitchen, but here, too, the rabbit had left eggs in the strangest places, in the clock case, in the cookie cutters, and even under the butter churn. Katie began to run round and round like a waltzing mouse. If only she could just find one egg. Even little Apollonia had found an egg and was already eating it. "Hooray, I found another egg," shouted Carl, running out of the stair closet. "I have the most." "No, I have," said Luke, and he lifted a purple egg from the teapot. "I have 5. Round and round the kitchen ran Katie, but now she just wanted to only run and hide. She felt so stupid. Just then she saw the attic stairs. Maybe the Easter rabbit had left eggs for her in the attic. Katie began to climb the creaking stairs. The big attic was dark and lonely, and Katie shivered a little bit. Soon it did not seem quite so dark, but she could see into the far corners. A spider was busy spinning her silken web across a bar of sunlight. What was on that shelf in the dark corner? A box? It looked like a hat box. Katy tiptoed across the dusty floor. Could the Easter rabbit have left eggs in an old hat box? No, of course not. How silly was she? She climbed up on the chest and lifted the lid of the hat box, and there were eggs, all packed snugly in an old beaver hat. It must have been a long time since someone had put them away. Katy took out the eggs carefully. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What beautiful colors! And there were pictures on the eggs. Katy took the hatful of eggs and walked slowly down the stairs. The Easter rabbit had not forgotten her after all. She was sure that she had won the prize. But there was Carl in the kitchen, with a whole pile of eggs on the table. He was very excited. I found 12 eggs. I've won. I've won! I found 6, Katy said, and she put her hatful on the table beside Carl's. Grandmom stopped laying the breakfast cloth, and her eyes grew big and round. Why, I'd forgotten all about those eggs. I'm glad you found them, Katy. And now for the prize. Carl has the prize for the most eggs, but Katy has won the prize for the most beautiful eggs. Grandmom gave them each a big cookie rabbit with an egg baked in its middle. Now it was breakfast time. The children began to crack and eat the eggs that they had found in the egg hunt. Grandmom brought a big pitcher of milk, and Katy and Carl shared their cookie rabbits with the other children. Let's eat the eggs that Katy found in the attic, said little Apollonia, who was still hungry. No, 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 said Grandmom. The very idea! Besides, they're all hollow inside. Grandmom sat down, holding the eggs in her lap. I painted these eggs myself when I was a young girl. Right here in this kitchen I painted them. They turned out so pretty I kept them all these years. But now each of you may choose one for your own, to keep always. Carl chose first. He picked an egg with a picture of a fine galloping horse on it. Katy chose an egg with a lovely bird sitting on a branch. Katy held up her egg and looked very closely. She turned it around and around and around to see all the bright colors. Susie, Luke, and Johnny each chose an egg, and now there was only one leg left in the old hat. Why, this egg has a letter A on it, said Grandma. A is for Apollonia. Apollonia took the egg. It's pretty, she said, but I do wish it was good to eat. The children put their eggs in a row on the window seat. Now, what shall we do with them, they asked. We don't do anything with them, said Katy. They are so beautiful we just look at them. Grandmom did not say a word. She put on her shawl and went out the kitchen door, and in a few minutes she came back carrying a small tree. She fixed the tree so that it would stand on the table, and then she ran a thread through each of the beautiful eggs and hung them on the tree. Why, it's an Easter egg tree, said Katy. An Easter egg tree, an Easter egg tree, sang the children, dancing around the tree. It was a lovely tree, but it was so very small. Suddenly Carl stood still. Grandmom, he said, please show us how to make the eggs with the pictures on them, and then we can have a bigger tree. Why, certainly, said Grandmom. First thing tomorrow morning, but today we keep Easter. The next morning when the children came downstairs, they found their grandmom dyeing eggs in the kettles over the fireplace. They hurried through breakfast before they could scarcely wait to learn how to make the pictures on the gay-colored eggs. There were not enough paints to go around, so Grandmom said the boys would each have to scratch designs on the eggs with their pocket knives. Grandmom took sheets of paper and drew all the designs she could remember. Each picture had a name: the bright and morning star, the deer on the mountain, the cooing dove, the pomegranate, the horn-blowing rooster. Oh, Grandmom, paint an egg with the horn-blowing rooster, the children begged. So Grandmom painted a handsome rooster blowing a horn. All the children found that they could make pictures on the eggs. Even Apollonia could paint the bright and morning star. Soon the eggs were as gay as the flower garden with all the painted eggs. Now they had enough eggs to make a big tree. "Let's go and find one right away," said Carl. Carl, Luke, and Johnny went into the woods, and they came back with a young white birch tree. It was so large that they had to stand it on the floor. The children trimmed the tree with the eggs that they had painted themselves, and with many plain dyed ones. Susie and Apollonia hung small baskets from the branches. Under the tree, Grandmom placed an enormous cookie rabbit which she had just taken from the oven. Katie hung up the eggs that she had found in the attic. If she had not found those eggs, they would never have an Easter egg tree, Grandmom said. Katie felt very proud as she hung her egg with the lovely bird on the topmost branch. "It is such a beautiful tree," said Katie. "I wish that everyone in the world could see it." "Yes," said Grandmom. "It makes a body feel as if spring has come right into the house. We must give a party for it." So Grandmom gave a party for the tree. All the children from all the farms were invited. "An egg tree," they said. "We've never seen a tree that grows eggs on its branches." The children went home and told their fathers and mothers about it. The fathers and mothers all came to see the wonderful tree in the little red house. "Next Easter, we'll have a bigger tree," Katie said. "And a really big tree," said Carl. Next year, the children began weeks ahead of Easter to trim the egg tree. This time, the tree was so tall that its top touched the ceiling. Hundreds of eggs hung from its branches. When the sun streamed in the tree, it looked like a piece of the rainbow. More than ever, Katie wished that everyone in the world could see their lovely tree. "Land's sake," said Grandmom, who was standing up by the driveway. "Who are all those people coming up our driveway?" They were the village people who had heard about the wonderful egg tree. More people came to see the tree, and more and more and more. They came from near and they came from far. Some even came from the big city. The little red house had become famous. Children brought presents to put under the tree, Easter toys and bright baskets and painted wooden eggs from lands across the sea. Thank you very much for letting us see the tree. All the visitors said. "And now we're going to go home and we're going to make our own Easter egg tree." Grandmom looked very pleased. "That's just fine," she said. "There's nothing like an Easter egg tree to bring spring into the house. A happy Easter to you all." When the visitors had gone to the little red house, it seemed very quiet. The children sat on the floor and played with the presents spread out under the tree. And suddenly Katie ran up to Grandmom and hugged her. "Oh, Grandmom," she said, "everybody in the world really did come to see our egg tree, didn't they?" Grandmom laughed. "A body would think so too to look at this floor," she said. And then she took up her broom and began to sweep briskly. Tomorrow would be Easter, and the house must be fresh and clean. Katie ran out of doors and picked some flowers in the garden. She scattered the bright colored petals on the lawn for the Easter egg rabbit's breakfast. It would never do for the Easter rabbit had not forgotten her. The back of the book says making an Easter egg tree. Perhaps you'd like to make an Easter egg tree in your own home or in the school or in the library. First, ask a grown-up to help you blow the eggs with a little hole at one end and a larger one at the other. Then dye the shells with different color Easter egg dyes. After that, paint designs on some of them with dye or paint. You can use watercolor or card paints, or you can scratch on them. Perhaps you'll want to leave some of the shells white and paint on white backgrounds. Some eggs may be plain colors. All through this book are lovely designs that you can use, or you can prefer to make your own. Hang the eggs on the branches of a little tree, outdoors or inside. If the branches are bare, the tree will look pretty whitewashed or painted white. Under the tree, put your candy Easter eggs or any bright Easter toys, and then ask all of your friends to come and see it.